Hey guys, how you doing? This is John again. Work as Briggs fan. Will just answer. Also, have a part-time lawnmower repair business, a Proficient mower. So today we have it's a karcher. Customer brought in. It's got the Honda, the gcv160, which is a pretty good motor. They were complaining of gas dripping on it. I've yet to find the gas leak. I'm suspective that it's the carburetor that was leaking on them. There's no holes in their line because the fuel is running straight. The valve's open and it's, fuel's flowing to the carb. So the reason why I'm gonna show you why I think it's the carburetor itself that was leaking at one point is for two reasons. One, you have a lot of nasty debris, like almost like a gas and dirt type mixture all around here, and that's usually what happens when your bowl's leaking. And the other reason why is because if you check the oil right here, although the oil's good in color, it reeks of old gas. See right here, it's pretty good in color still, but if smelling it, it smells like shellacked gas. So what that tells me is that the carburetor's been leaking into the carburetor hasn't been sealing, so gas has been bypassing it pretty much. What'll happen is gas will bypass the carburetor, go in down past the valves into the crankcase and mix with the oil. So hopefully with this type of repair, all we'll need to do is remove the carburetor, clean it, possibly rebuild it, and change the oil, and then it should be good to go. So the first thing I'm gonna do is this. I was just noticing too that this wheel on this thing, they're missing 3 out of 4 bolts. The wheel was hanging off, so I have a couple extra bolts I'm going to put in for them just to get that wheel back together. So we'll do that too. But after that, the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shut that gas off to close the fuel on it. And once I do that, I'll go ahead and we'll start looking at pulling the carburetor off. So we're just going to put one bolt in here and just hand tighten it for now. I'm going to tighten them all up later. But these usually aren't too bad of a unit. But this one seems like it's probably hasn't been taken care of the best. Put another one right here just to hold them on for now. And then I'll tighten them up. In a few minutes. And these will end up holding that on for us. So let me just grab. Let's see if this is the right one. Nope, sure isn't. Looks like it's going to be 3/8. It is 3/8. Okay, we're just gonna tighten this up some just so we can make sure this wheel isn't gonna come off on us. It's like separating from the actual rim because I don't know how they've lost all these bolts and I didn't notice. Alright, so there we go. And this will hold it pretty good for us. And then we can move on to the carb, which is what I want to videotape today. So it's at least the removal of it, and we'll drain the oil. And then I'll probably make a second video of actually disassembling and cleaning the carb. So go. This should hold it so we can hurry up and get this tightened. There we go. Okay, let's get this one real quick and then we can move on to the important stuff. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the carburetor. So I'm going to position this so you guys can get a good view. Alright. So we have to remove these 3 bolts first, and I think it takes an 8 or a 10 millimeter on most Hondas. So it's going to take one or the other, 8 or a 10. So those will be the first 3 that we remove. Let's set this here in the way. I can kind of prop it up. It won't be in the way, but yet you still get a very good angle of what's going on. Okay, let's see if that works. Alright, so we have 3 bolts here we're going to remove. 1, 2, 3. And it's either an 8 or a 10 mil. We'll find out in about 2 minutes. Not even. Alright, here we go. Put this under here. This is a, what is this? This is a 10 mil, and I bet you it's going to be the one. It is, 10 mil. So we know. And the first thing you're going to want to do is turn this, to turn the gas off, just so you don't end up with fuel everywhere. So you're going to have to do that. Putting rubber gloves on right now. I'm trying to make good habit of wearing rubber gloves to dealing with gasoline just to protect your hands and skin. I didn't do it for years, and it's a bad habit. That carburetor cleaner you want to kind of protect yourself from. So, alright, let's grab a socket here. So, here we go. What you're going to do is you're going to undo all three of these here. Ready? There we go. One. Oh, first, turn your fuel line. So you want to turn the valve to up, which should cut off your fuel flow. So that way you won't lose gas. So you're going to take this off here. 1, 2, and 3. And once you get them loose, you can unscrew them by hand. It's not too bad to do. So 1. 2. That one's one of the carburetor mounts there, so just keep in mind when you undo these two, the carb will be loose at that point. So, and I'm getting the third one right now. 3. So you pull these out, and then you can remove this. Just be careful. You do have your black hose that hooks up here, right there to there. So you want to remove that. Set that out of the way. And now your carburetor is free. So what you're going to want to do here is this. Come here. Let me show you. Alright, so here's what you're going to want to do. With your carburetor being free now, you got to unhook your linkages. But the thing is, you've got to keep track of where your linkages go. So I always tell people to take a picture if you don't know by heart how they run. This is your choke linkage. This is your governor linkage right here for the engine. And it's also, you have the wire linkage that goes there too. So, I mean, that's something right there to definitely, that choke's really tight. Yeah, wow. It's really, really tight. I'm surprised at that. So, take a picture of this if you know, whenever you're working on your own. I mean, I pretty much know just working on them. I always bend this out just a teeny bit. Doesn't hurt it. You don't want to bend it too far, but just enough to get your stuff, you know, unhooked. There we go. So right now what I'm doing is you want to get this off. So you've also got your fuel line under here too. Right down here is your fuel line. So you need to get that off too. What you can do is you can undo this bolt here, and that will remove the whole thing. We can do that just to kind of show you, and also it might make it a little bit more easily accessible. So let's go ahead and there we go. Undo that. So this is the 4th bolt. Okay, when you undo that, it's going to undo this whole thing right down in here. Take that off. Okay, now all that's open. Now you can get to your whole carb with no problems. So what you need to do is you need to get your fuel line off right here. Right about right there. And it's got a little thing on there, so you're going to need a needle nose to get that. And we have one right here. Okay. So you're gonna have to get this piece off too. You're gonna have to replace that gasket, most likely. And that goes there. This thing's had a lot of old gas in it. You can smell it. And what we're trying to do now is pop this thing. Okay, right there's what I'm working at. Trying to get this thing off and hold this camera. There we go. You just gotta squeeze these things and they should come off, but this one's being difficult. Okay, so let's go and pop the choke off right here. Then we can pop off your wire right there. And then this one here. Ready? There we go. Now it gives us a little bit more freedom to get this fuel line off here. Whew, what a pain. So once you get that off, you'll have the carburetor completely off at that point. And then we can start looking at maybe taking it apart and dipping it while we change the oil. But I'm betting this thing's pretty gunked just by the looks of it. So here we go. So we need to get this fuel line off this thing right here. So what we're gonna do is we gotta get those things off. So right here's where you want to pinch these two little metal things here and pull back. There we go. Slowly start to get this thing off of here. And a lot of times you're going to have to take a pair of pliers or even a screwdriver just to break the seal of the hose on here. So what you're going to want to do is this. I like to use a flathead sometimes if I have one. But you can also take your pliers and slip them under the hose and just kind of push up. Just give it a little bit of help, like to break the actual suction on that thing. Okay, there we go. We got a little bit of fuel flow, but it is turned off, so it should stop in a second. There you go. There you are. And this is the carb here. So what we can do now, since we have it off, if you want to go through it real quick, go apart, take it apart and go through it, we can. We're about 11 minutes into this video, so let's go and do it. Okay, so to get this carburetor off, undone, we got to remove this. So again, 10 millimeter. Honda stay pretty continuous with that. Just gotta undo this, and this is where my gloves come into play. So you undo that here. Set your bolt here. Now this bolt will come out, and ooh-wee! Wow, yuckness. A lot of yuckness there. Very discolored. Smells like varnish. Really bad gas. Wowee. Okay. So, it's probably a little gunked up. Not too bad, but it's still not in great shape. Let me change my gloves real quick. These are pretty nasty now. And if you decide to buy gloves, just a word of advice, I would go with the knit rowel. Don't go with the rubbers. They seem to break really, really easy versus the knit rowel gloves, the blue gloves. Both of them are good for gas, but you have to watch these because I've had a couple times where these things have broken while I'm working, and then you know you're getting gas on your hands, you don't even know it. So, okay, so now that we have that off, we're gonna get the carb ready for boil, and I'll probably stop there because I got to pick my kiddo up soon. So, let's go ahead and put the gloves on. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I do with this is I like to remove the float pin. So hopefully it's not stuck. I don't think it's gonna be. It looks like this thing just really started to go bad recently, like the gas in it. It probably hasn't sat too long like that, but we'll see. Okay, so I always like to take my pair of pliers here and push on the float pin just a little bit to see if it's stuck or not. And it might be stuck actually. It's not moving, so. And if it is, sometimes it takes a little convincing to move, but you got to be careful because you don't want to break it. So I can even take the handle of this and tap it to bust it loose. There we go. Now it's tapped loose. See how it's moved? So we should be able to grab it now and pull it. Hopefully. There you are. Grab it here, right from here, and pull. See, they should just slide out. Got it. And adjust it. So, carb's gonna have to be boiled. I don't know if it's gonna need to be rebuilt, but it definitely needs to be boiled. So you take your float out right here. Your needle will be right there too. And what happens a lot of times is these things get gunked up. Even if it's the teeniest bit, they get gunked up or the rubber seal breaks away, and then they won't seal. So then gas just gets past the carb, because basically what happens is you have your needle sitting here facing up, and the needle goes in this hole right here, that little hole right there, that hole. So when it's hinged and it's like this, it drops down. It drops down and gas is filling in from here. And as it fills in there, it closes it. Well, basically as it closes it, when it closes it pushes that needle up in there, and it's supposed to stop the gas flow. But if the needle's not sealing with the inlet valve, what happens is it closes, the needle sitting up in there, but gas continues to run. So it fills up the bowl right here. It fills up that bowl, and it has nowhere else to go. So guess where it starts to go after that? Comes up through the center jet of the carburetor, runs back through the carburetor down into the valves, into the crankcase, and into your oil. And that's why a lot of times these motors will end up blowing up. And you know, I have customers whose their engines blow up, and you see all the junk in there while they're using it, and they've had no clue, and they're angry. But the thing is, it's like I tell customers all the time, and I've probably said it in other videos, to check your oil. You check your oil not just to make sure it's full, but you check your oil for smell, especially after sitting for a long period of time, like the winter. I mean, when a mower sits for 3 months, that's a lot of time to have it end up, to have it end up gunking up. And once it gunks up, and if you don't check it and you run it, like if they had ran this with that gasoline mixed in the oil, within 1 or 2 times of running it for a good little period of time, it would have probably locked that motor up or broke the connecting rod on it. I mean, it's just because there's no lubrication. So the last thing for us to do here with this one is to try to pull out the center jet. I don't know how good this is going to go, because of the fact that the jet, if you can see in here, I'm trying to get some good light for you to see, but this center jet is pretty funky. Let's go ahead and go get a little small screwdriver, see if we can get the jet out. If we can, we'll end this video here, and we'll pick up on part 2 with us cleaning it and, you know, draining the oil. But so far, at least you guys have kind of gotten an idea of how to get the Honda carburetor off and what to do to get it, you know, in this type of situation. So here we go. Let's go ahead and grab a screwdriver real quick, and then we'll pull that carb off. Pull that jet out of it, and we'll prepare to boil. A little bit later this evening, we'll shoot a second video of boiling it. See, you need a real small screwdriver. It's got to be a little blade and everything. So let's go ahead here. I've got a few of them. It's just all about finding them. Keep all my screwdrivers in this bag here, but I should have one that's got a small enough blade that I can pull that jet out on. That's Phillips. Let's see here. Maybe right over here. This one will probably work right here. This one here, you need a blade small enough to fit down in there to pull that out. So let's try that real quick while we're sitting here. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. You just put the screwdriver down in here, and you got to find the groove. So you got to turn it till you find this groove, and you'll feel it when you hit it. It's a straight groove across. There we go. And I don't know if this puppy's gonna come out. Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure this one's gonna come out because it's really tight in there. I'm trying to convince it to, and that's a problem because you really want this jet out of there. And it's brass too, which is another stupid idea on Honda's part. Let's make a jet out of brass. Brass being the softest metal. Guess what happens when it gunks up and stuff? And you can't get it out. It starts to bend. Man, let's see if we have a smaller screwdriver. Might be our only hope with this. Yep, it's a wider one. This is a good one. I use this one a lot actually. Real small tip. Get down in there, try to